Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Hidayatusyifa Nuzula, my student number 2519061. Today I will explain object 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay, strike 2. Project 2. Observation of a literature lesson. Purpose. You may wish to focus on a particular person or group in the classroom, a type of activity or stage of a lesson. See general notes on observation at the beginning of this chapter. If you know what you are looking for, prepare notes beforehand or an observation schedule to be sure you concentrate on the object of observation. It is easy to be distracted in such a rich environment with so much going on. Key question: what interaction occur around literary texts in class? Who talks with whom about what and how? Literature class are often reported as being particularly teacher dominated. Is this the case in the class you are observing? What are the consequences if so not necessarily negative? Could alternative interaction pattern be encouraged? Anticipated outcome. It is not uncommon to observe real student difficulties with literature classes. Difficulty is not necessarily a bad thing in education, but it will be important to try to observe where and how difficulties arise. If the class seems to be proceeding more smoothly, again this may not be without its own problems, but the quality and extent of student contribution and how these are facilitated may be a useful focus. How to collect data? Perhaps arrange to teach a collegus class in exchange for her teaching yours, or video or tape your own class. If you are lucky and diplomatic, it may be possible to attend other classes. Data collection. Record the observation if possible because of the weakness of human memory and of selective attention. Analysis. Analysis can be very systematic, even quantitative, and this is certainly a value. For example, it timing contribution of different participants or counting the number of contribution of different contributors, perhaps according to categories. Time allocation. Watching hour-long lesson even once takes an hour, but of course that is only the start. Restrict analysis to 1 or 2 classes to keep the project manageable, although you may wish, if possible, to observe more than the instance you choose to analyze. Resource needed. Recording equipment, access to classes, goodwill of those to be observed, including formal permission in some cases. Project 3. Case study: an individual reader or readers reading the same text across time. Purpose. Case studies, as already discussed, can never be definitive and are of limited generalizability, but can be at least suggestive for both researcher and researched. A good case study will inspire confidence that at last this case is now better understood in its particularity. Much applied linguistic research has been dominated by numbers and abstract models. Key question: What can be learned of the reading of SL literature from this case? The approach is open, but could will be a way to approach intercultural learning. For example, anticipated outcome will depend of the individual case and the reader's knowledge of it. But the principle remains that there will always be anticipated outcomes, and it is good to make them as explicit as possible from the outset. How to collect data? Triangulation is needed for qualitative depth and multi-perspectival sensitivity of understanding. Protocols, for example, can be complemented by interviews, observation, examination of written text, including the subject, reading logs or diaries, and so on. Text observation, interviews, analysis. A strong case here for developing findings in collaboration with others, including the subjects of the study. Rich data needs to be shaped into a coherent and convincing account. Time allocation. How or where to draw the line? A natural clause is rigid and much qualitative research. When the researcher feels that is little new being discovered, but a longitudinal study will by definition be more open-ended and could be revisited. Researchers needed. See notes on observation, interviews, and analysis of text and documents at the beginning of this chapter. Project 4. Difficulties in reading literature in a second language. Protocol study. Purpose. At a local and individual level, problems can be identified and points to or strategies developed. More generally, shared difficulties can be expected to emerge across readers and student population, which can inform teaching decisions regarding selection of materials, sequencing, and appropriate or helpful activities. Key question. What difficulties do second language readers of literature experience with literary texts? Anticipated outcome. Difficulties likely to be more linguistic at lower levels, including vocabulary. At higher levels, difficulties may be more cognitive, inferential, or cultural, probably extending to attitudes to literature reading or a relative lack of experience, word knowledge, or text knowledge. How to collect data? Collect individual protocols, possibly pair. The key is a good recording with some textual notes to help you interpret the recording. Frame or introduce the recording with factual data. Name that recorded text. One technique often reported as useful is to ask subject to read a text silently, underline any words of passage they feel uncertain about them. Discuss this with the researcher. Data collection. Transcript need to be developed from tapes. Try to use different texts and students to widen the investigation if possible. Talk analysis will tend to be more qualitative and perhaps longitudinal analysis. developed according to enable analysis of individual transcript and comparison across typescript. Time allocation. Time consuming likely to be restricted to a few individuals but can be very revealing. Allow several hours to transcribe 10 or 5-10 minutes of transcript. Transcription will require you to clarify what you are particularly interested in studying. Research needed. Clearly printed text and instruction of distraction, appropriate room. Time to listen, encode, analyze, and then write up and feedback incorporates into teaching. Project 5. Attitudes to literature. Purpose. Attitudes, understandings, and feelings affect students' learning experience and achievements. Key question. Do my students like literature? What kinds of literature do they like? Do they believe literature will help them achieve their learning goals? Anticipated outcome. Short stories probably preferred to poetry or other forms. Modern literature preferred to older texts. Doubt about communicative and oral relevance likely. How to collect data. Questionnaire. Possibly follow-up interviews and discussion as well with a small group. Semi-structured interviews may be prepared for the writer information they can yield, but they are more time-consuming and the anonymity of a questionnaire might encourage doubters to say their worst, where face-to-face situation would inhibit such responses. Data collection. Design of a questionnaire should anticipate the age and usefulness of collecting and analyzing data. Consider if you want quantitative responses, qualitative, or probably a mix of both. Analysis. It is possible to lose sight of original research question and interest in over-analyzing data or collecting too much detailed data, especially with the help of some statistical package and software now readily available for use on PC. Time allocation. Design of questionnaire, piloting, administration, collecting result, analyzing and interpreting, follow-up interviews, discussion, feedback, consultation with colleagues or superiors, and then implementing modification to the program and monitoring them. Without each three is not much point to the project. Will all take your time. Research needed. Clear printing and copying facilities, word processing, including some familiarity with non-verbal testing. Ideally, software to translate figures into statistic and non-verbal representation of finding, charts, and graphic. Project 6. Literature as a social practice. Ethnography. Purpose. To consider literature as a social practice is to ask after the new literary research of Street 1993 or Barton 1994 can be given worthwhile answer. See also how 2005. It will also be noticed that such large question go some way to address some of the loftier claims made for literature in education, as the development of citizens, of morality, of the feelings and sensibilities. The large issue of culture in LLA is also such research also links closely to never understanding the language acquisition as involving world. Real people with literal lives and interests learning to participate. Key question: what is being learned in the largest educational sense by this reader or this group in reading this book or this literary text? Anticipated outcome. Qualitative research tries not to anticipate outcomes too closely to expectation or certain interests are likely to prompt or pre-exist the study. In gender or power imbalance in society, in globalization, or in literary research. How to collect data? The regulation will be the key along with good access to data and an insider's understanding of the research situation. Data collection. The object is rich data, in-depth qualitative understanding. Hence, the regulation concern already mentioned. Note that this can include photos or other non-linguistic artifact. Analysis. Analysis is necessarily primarily qualitative and will take the form of a convincing or of a convincing narrative of the situation. Theme allocation. In principle, this will be the most exhaustive kind of research, necessitating extended exposure to the situation being investigated. Research needed. Indians pads of paper and a pencil, possibly a frying pan too. You may be able to borrow one. Yes, that is explain object 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, that's all for me. Thanks for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.